everybody, welcome to Rock Legacy. Today we will be exploring one of the most interesting phenomena in rock music, siblings in bands. These family ties can create magic or mayhem on the stage or in the studio. We'll cover 8 iconic pairs today, exploring their successes, their weaknesses, their greatest accomplishments, and some lesser-known facts. From blues to hard rock, these stories show how blood can fuel brilliance. Let's dive right in with the Fogerty Brothers and Creedence Clearwater Revival. Creedence Clearwater Revival, or CCR, was a swamp rock powerhouse in the late 1960s and early 70s, led by brothers John and Tom Fogerty. John was the dominant sibling, serving as the lead singer, guitarist, primary songwriter, and producer. He wrote hits like Proud Mary, Fortunate Son, and Bad Moon Rising, blending blues, rock, and roots influences. His brother Tom, who was older, played rhythm guitar and provided backing vocals, contributing to the band's tight harmony and early sound. Together, they achieved massive success, selling over 28 million albums in the U.S. alone, with 5 number 2 singles on the Billboard Hot 100. Solo-wise, John thrived after Creedence Clearwater Revival, with hits like The Old Man Down the Road and Centerfield, while Tom released 5 albums but had limited commercial success. His work was overshadowed by family tensions. Now, a lesser-known fact, Tom left Creedence Clearwater Revival in 1971 due to resentment over John's control, but he was the band's original leader in their early incarnation as Tommy Fogerty and the Blue Velvets. Another tidbit, John sued Fantasy Records owner Saul Zaentz for defamation over songs like Zaentz Cat Dance, stemming from a bitter royalties dispute. Now, their dynamics on stage, John commanded the spotlight with his raw vocals and guitar, while Tom provided steady rhythm, creating Creedence Clearwater's signature groove. In the studio, John's perfectionism led to conflicts. Tom felt marginalized in the songwriting. They constantly were scrapping with each other. John was the creative force, driving 90% of the hits, but Tom's early contributions helped form the band's foundation. Edgar and Johnny Winter. The Winter brothers brought Texas blues rock to the masses in the 70s. Johnny, the dominant sibling, was the lead guitarist and vocalist. He was known for his lightning-fast slide guitar and raw blues energy. He produced hits like Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo and influenced guitarists like Stevie Ray Vaughan. Edgar, Johnny's younger brother, played keyboard, sax, and sang, and he contributed to the band's eclectic sound with pro-rock elements. Together, they formed the Edgar Winter Group, scoring number 1 with Frankenstein in 1973. Blending blues, rock, and jazz, Johnny's solo career was legendary, with albums like Still Alive and Well reviving blues classics, while Edgar had hits like Free Ride and won a Grammy for his 2022 tribute album, Brother Johnny. Lesser-known fact, both brothers were albinos, which influenced their unique bond and stage presence. Johnny once fired producer Eddie Kramer in the middle of an album for not focusing. Dynamics. On stage, Johnny's flamboyant guitar solos complemented Edgar's multi-instrumental flair, creating explosive energy in the studio. Another lesser-known fact, Edgar was the weird kid who played multiple instruments, while Johnny was the ambitious frontman who pushed the blues revival. Johnny's blues purity clashed with Edgar's experimental style, but their telepathic communication fueled creativity that was out of this world. Johnny was the bigger contributor to blues revival, but Edgar's versatility expanded their success. Who had Johnny Winter's first album? How about Edgar Winter with Frankenstein and Free Ride? Did you ever see them live? Drop me a comment if you did. Stevie Ray and Jimmy Vaughan revitalized the blues genre in the 1980s. Stevie Ray, the dominant sibling, was the lead guitarist and vocalist, famous for his fiery Stratocaster tone and songs like Pride and Joy. Jimmy, the subdominant older brother, played rhythm guitar and founded the Fabulous Thunderbirds with Kim Wilson, contributing soulful guitar riffs. They performed on tracks like Tick Tock, blending blues and rock. Stevie's band, Double Trouble, exploded with Texas Flood in 1983, earning Grammys and selling millions of albums. Jimmy had hits like Tough Enough. Stevie's tragic death in 1990 cut short his career, but Jimmy continued releasing solo work. A lesser-known fact, Stevie started on drums, but Jimmy switched him to guitar. Stevie turned down a spot in David Bowie's band to focus on Double Trouble. Another lesser-known fact, Stevie snuck into clubs in Austin at age 12 to play with Albert King, impressing him with a standing ovation. Dynamics on stage, Jimmy's steady rhythm guitar anchored Stevie's explosive solos, creating brotherly synergy. In the studio, Jimmy mentored Stevie's techniques. Stevie was the bigger contributor to the blues revival, but Jimmy's influences helped shape his path. Hart's Wilson sisters revolutionized rock for women. Anne, the dominant sibling, was the lead vocalist and songwriter, with her powerful voice driving hits like Barracuda. Nancy, the subdominant, played guitar, adding acoustic flair and vocal harmonies. Together, they sold 35 million albums, with Hart, 1985, topping all charts. Anne's solo work, like Ann Wilson Thang, showed her versatility. Nancy scored films like Almost Famous. A lesser-known fact, the band started as Army in Vancouver. Nancy's Beatle obsession sparked Hart. Another unknown fact, Anne overcame cancer in 2023, postponing tours. Dynamics on stage, Anne's commanding vocals paired with Nancy's intricate guitar. In the studio, Nancy's arrangements complemented Anne's lyrics. Anne was the bigger contributor to Hart's vocal intensity, but Nancy's musicianship expanded their sound. Did you ever see them live? I actually auditioned for Hart once. No, I didn't get the job. Van Halen. Eddie and Alex Van Halen. Boy, I knew these guys well in Hollywood. The Van Halen brothers defined hard rock. Eddie, the dominant sibling, was the lead guitarist and innovator, inventing tapping on Eruption. Alex, the subdominant, played drums, providing powerhouse rhythms. Together, they sold 80 million albums, with 1984 hitting number 2 on the rock charts. Eddie's solo guest spots like Beat It were huge. Alex released a memoir in 2024. Lesser known fact, Eddie played drums first. Alex played guitar first. They switched. Another lesser known fact, Eddie disliked being called the greatest guitarist. Dynamics. On stage, Eddie's solos synced with Alex's drums in perfect unison. In the studio, Eddie's control caused some tensions. Eddie was the bigger contributor to innovation, but Alex's drumming anchored Van Halen's energy. And if you saw them live, you would know how much Alex's drums filled in so many holes. They were just a great pair. The Kinks, Ray and Dave Davies. The Kinks-Davies brothers shaped the British invasion. Ray, the dominant, was the lead vocalist and songwriter, penning songs like Lola and You Really Got Me. Dave, the subdominant player, played lead guitar, creating that incredible guitar solo for You Really Got Me. Together they sold 50 million albums, with Lola versus Power Man criticizing the industry. Ray's solo career included The Storyteller, and Dave released Bug. Lesser known fact, Dave's amp slashing created distortion for You Really Got Me. Another, Ray staged his own death in 2004 for publicity. Dynamics. On stage, Dave's riffs complemented Ray's vocals. In the studio, sibling rivalry fueled creativity, sometimes leading into some fights. Ray was the bigger contributor to songwriting, but Dave's guitar defined their sound. And I'll tell you what, in 1964, when You Really Got Me came out, that just blew the doors off of rock music. It was great. The Allman Brothers Band, Duane and Gregg Allman. Man, I met these guys back in 1969. What a super group. The Allman Brothers pioneered Southern rock. Flat out, they started that craze. Duane, the dominant older brother, lead guitarist, with slide mastery, showed his chops on songs like Statesboro Blues. Gregg, the younger brother, sang and wrote Whipping Post and many other Allman Brothers hits. Together, they sold 20 million albums, with At the Fillmore East being one of their legendary concerts. Duane died in 1971, and Gregg's solo album, I'm No Angel, hit the charts. Lesser known fact, Duane started on guitar with help from Gregg's paper route money to buy him a guitar. Lesser known fact, Gregg aspired to be a dentist, and Duane's motorcycle accident inspired the song Melissa. Dynamics. On stage, Duane's solos meshed with Gregg's keyboard magically. In the studio, Duane led, but Gregg's vocals defined their sound. Duane was the bigger contributor to sound, but Gregg carried the legacy. What a super band. AC/DC, Angus and Malcolm Young. AC/DC's young brothers are rock legends. Angus was the lead guitar player, and his stage antics are famous. Malcolm, the subdominant, played rhythm, crafting riffs that complemented Angus's blistering solos. Together, they sold 200 million albums, with Back in Black being the number 2 of all time. Angus continues touring. Malcolm retired in 2014 due to dementia. Lesser known fact, Malcolm was the better soloist per Angus. They switched instruments as kids. Another lesser known fact is George Young, also a brother, produced their early albums. Now their dynamics on stage. On stage, Malcolm's rhythm drove Angus's solos. In the studio, Malcolm's less is more shaped their album sound. Malcolm was the bigger contributor to structure, but Angus's charisma fueled their success. Who has seen AC/DC live? Their stage show is phenomenal. Let me know your favorites, and if there are any that I forgot. Who would you add to this list? I hope you enjoyed today's story in Rock Legends. If there are any that I forgot, please let me know. And if you would be so kind as to hit the like, subscribe, share with some of your friends, it would really help me out, because there are a lot of videos like this that people would want to see if they just knew about it. So keep love in your heart, a song in your head, and I will see you down the musical story highway on the next adventure of the old-time rock and roller. So long, my friends.